I mean, you know, I started playing drums when I was a little kid. I don't know, I had a drum set when I was probably like 3 or 4, one of those cheap ass paper ones. Started off on guitar, but then I really got into playing drums more. In junior high, I was already in a band with my buddies Scott, and you know, we didn't know any better. We didn't have a bass player. We had, you know, 2 guitar players. So we'd play these parties and stuff, and his house, you know, their house, they had a pool, and we had a party once at my house, and we had a barn in the backyard. We had like a pretty big barn, so we like went all out and set up like a drum riser. We made it kind of a big deal. So I had this drum riser, and so I was up, you know, in the air, and everybody was like all into Kiss and everything. So we invited all of our friends to come over. It was on like, I don't know, I think my parents were gone. I can't believe they let us do this without anybody being there, because it could have been bad.
I didn't know about half of those things that boys were doing. I was supposed to be in a horse barn, but they was using it for something else.
He made him a stage, put his drums, set his drums up.
So we all have our makeup on, and so they go, okay, man, well you go ahead and go out there first, and you know we'll be right behind you. And so, you know, it's like when you're a kid, you know, it's pretty devastating. So anyway, we go out there. We had like dry ice, and we had like all this, like made it look like a concert. You know, had this really shitty lighting, and like floodlights with like, I don't know, colored plastic over something. So anyway, had all these people there, and so I went up there, and everybody's kind of like, you know, not really doing much. I got up there, and then so Scott came in, and so we start playing, and then everybody's laughing, and I had to figure out what's going on, why everybody was laughing, and then they turned around, and they had taken all their makeup off, and so I was the only one that had makeup on, and I was so embarrassed because like I was trying to impress this chick, and I looked like a total dork up there. So then we had to move to Bowling, Texas, like out in the middle of BFE. So on occasion, my mom would drive me in, and I'd get to play with Scott. And, you know, we still would do that every now and then. But anyway, it sucked. Totally hated it. And so I had nobody to play with, literally. And I just every day, you know, I mean, I had to work on the farm, so I had to work every day and go to school and then find time to play drums like every day. That was my life. I used to have to go to work before I'd go to school, and then I have to go to work after school through high school. So that sucked. Went to junior college, and that was totally lame because I didn't want to do it, and decided to move out to LA because I was going to go to Musicians Institute. So my dad was going to like spring for that and get me out to California, and you know, that was just my way out of having to be in Bowling or even, you know, Texas, period, because it just wasn't the place I needed to be in order to be a musician. Went to LA, saw stuff most people probably don't ever get to see, you know, especially coming from a small town. So David's cousin is who I was coming out here to live with, and she was an actress. And so anyway, I got an apartment with her, and it was fine. I just wanted to move out here. So got out here, so I pull up, you know, me and David pull up, and it's like, welcome to LA, and they pull out just like this plate of cocaine. We were both just like, hey. So anyway, it was just like, you know, wow, this is going to be great. Like, this is going to be like, oh man. And I don't mean great in a good way. I just mean like, oh God, like I'm moving in with this chick. I don't even know her. I've never even met her before. And this was my introduction to this chick. And her boyfriend was a magician that worked at the Magic Castle. But it was funny. So this chick went from, you know, having a boyfriend that was a magician to she broke up with him and then started screwing JoJo, the Colombian coke dealer. And so he was at the house all the time. There were always something going on. I was driving him to everywhere he needed to go because he he lost his license, or they impounded his car or whatever. So we'd go to, this was like in '83, so we'd go to the Roxy or the whatever club it was. There'd be like a line a mile long out the door, and we'd just walk up to the front of the line, and they'd go, "Oh, hey, JoJo's, come on in," and we'd go in, and he was dealing blow, and he was just, it was just like, it was almost like I'm like watching a movie, because I was like, huh, I didn't even think of what could happen to me.
Always into some kind of little 15-cent trouble.
And so finally, I had to move out. And then I moved back to Texas. I went to BMI. We got through it all. It was great. Had a great time. Have a lot of great friends from that. I'm still in touch with a handful of them. Moved back to Texas because I just couldn't. I wasn't surviving. I wasn't making enough money. I was working in a photo lab. And there I saw some stuff that most people hadn't seen. This like crazy. It's Hollywood. I was working in a photo lab in Hollywood, right next to the Chinese Theater. So I had like anything imaginable coming in and asking us to develop film for them. I moved back to Texas, and I didn't know I wasn't going to stay there, but I had to go back for a while because I had to. I had no choice. And so I was there for a while and went back to work, and I was playing a little bit. I was staying with Bambi quite a bit and trying to be in Houston. I was doing some lame gigs just to be playing. And then I got a call about 6 months later from Andy Kotz, and he was like, "Hey, we got this gig in Hawaii, man. Can you come back? Would you come back out here? We're going to be out there for like a month." And I was really torn about it because I knew my mom was going to like not be happy about me leaving again. And
I didn't think he would stay out there for 20 years.
got back in my car and drove back to California, and got out there, and the gig had fallen through, so there was no gig, and I was in California with no gig, and so I was living with Andy for a while, and we were gigging around town. We were like, doing some clubs and whatever, and then I ended up house sitting for Dane's parents once, and they were out of town. And then from then, I was gonna have to go back to Texas, and so they asked me if I wanted to live with them, and I was like, sure. So I basically lived in a room like not much bigger than this. Like I was like their sewing room, so I lived in there for a few years. I kept getting called to go play out at Disneyland. And that was like the cool gig to have because it was like a union gig, and you got full medical and dental and like all this stuff that was like unheard of.
I met Frank at Disneyland, let's just say circa 1991, I'm going to say, 1992. He was playing on the stage at Disneyland, awesome. The one that goes up and down, and playing What Is Hip as their little opening number, and with Brad playing bass. I was on the other side playing a little MIDI band, 3-piece MIDI band blasting out of a Star Tours van, playing space music in a tinfoil suit.
Standard.
What are you laughing at? It's just, no, it was good. It's good.
In 91, circa 91, 92, I was still in junior high, just so you know.
Yeah, totally. And he was coming to see me every day.
No.
At Disneyland.
God, no, I wasn't.
I saw you.
I'd throw things at the tin guys.
We just destroyed the rock thing back in 95, 94, 95. It was the baddest ass band you could ever.
And we do like some Lukather. We did what was that?
I can't think of the name of that. Dude, that was badass. I can't believe we both knew that right now.
I think somebody from Disney called me to audition, see if I wanted to play with Dave Mason. So Dave Mason was the founder of Traffic. He played with Jimi Hendrix. Dave Mason's kind of an icon from the 60s. And I had to learn all the songs in like 2 days, probably. So I had to charted everything out, and I was literally learning stuff on the plane as I was going to go do the gig. Never met Dave, didn't know anybody in the band. I knew the bass player, and I can't remember how. Oh, I knew the bass player from the guy that referred me for the gig. So anyway, go and play with Dave Mason. Hey, how you doing? And then did the gig. And, I guess I did a good job because, he asked me to join the band after that. So I played with him for a while. I don't know, 3-4 years, but it wasn't cool because he still did like a ton of blow, and he wouldn't show up for gigs, or he'd cancel gigs, or he'd leave us stranded on the East Coast with no money in the winter, with no PD, no hotel, no nothing. And we had to drive from New York to Chicago. And it was a mess. So anyway, I quit that band, and so I was just kind of gigging around, and then my buddy Richie called me to audition for Chuck, who's the lead singer from Three Dog Night, and I didn't know who Chuck Negron was, but I knew who Three Dog Night was. And I went down to the audition, and I did not know at the time that I was auditioning with Floyd. The original drummer from Three Dog Night was re-auditioning for his own gig, so I didn't know that. But anyway, I got the gig, and I felt really bad about it when I found out that this dude was trying to get his own gig back. Like, it wasn't really his gig, but with Chuck, so. Anyway, I played with Chuck, I don't know, for, right now it's been like 13 years, so I got the gig right before Frankie was born. I knew Scott Weiland from like way back, and I actually played with the band he was in before Stone Temple Pilots. I subbed for my buddy Lonnie, so him and Sean were in Scott Weiland's band, and Scott was nobody yet. I mean, he was just, it was just a band. And so let Scott hear what we had been recording, that we had been working on at my house when I lived in a condo in La Habra, like downstairs in the garage. We were recording, and it was really good, really good stuff. And so Scott heard it, and he loved it, and then he wanted to produce the band. So we basically moved into his studio and lived there for, a year. And we were recording there every day, and, doing stuff for Scott. I was recording demo stuff for Scott for like stuff he was working on, and then we ended up doing a track on the Austin Power soundtrack. Whenever Scott went to rehab for like the 800th time, James said that, we have to get all our stuff out of here. And so we took everything out of the studio that was ours, but then he stole the master tapes of everything that we had been recording. So Scott had given us all of this free studio time, free everything, and then the lead singer just took it all. So that just blew that whole opportunity, because we had so much like that we could have done something, and just got pissed away by just selfishness. And then what little bit of money we made from the Austin Powers, most of it went to lawyers, and legal fees because they were suing each other and all this other shit. So that, unfortunately, that didn't happen. But so that was cool though. We played the Sundance Film Festival with Scott, and it was his first time on stage in like years, because he had been in and out of rehab and everything like that. So that was pretty much, for me, it was like the highlight of my career at the time, just being in that, just being in the middle of all that, just the potential of everything going on was cool.
A merry little Christmas, let your heart be light.
And anybody that's a musician right now is just doing whatever it takes to survive, because there's no big touring gigs. There's no money to be made in the music business anymore. Everybody's stealing music. It's hard work, but it's fun. It's fun. People take it as like, not having a real job, but it's like any other job. I mean, sometimes I hate it. Most of the times, I hate what I do. I love doing my church gig. I like playing at back alley. I love recording, but, I'm just happy that I can still play and that I can support my family. We're not getting rich, but, we're making it. 3 great kids and a great wife. I don't know. I guess my life's not that bad. Could be worse, you know? It could be worse.